Welcome to the Retirement Made Easy podcast. I'm your host, Greg Gonzalez. My goal for the podcast has and always will be to simply help you live a better life in retirement and to have a better retirement by giving you the tools and information you need in a language that you can understand. We leave out all the fluff and the jargon on this podcast that's just going to go over people's heads anyway and is not really helpful and impactful to their planning and their retirement. And we talk about the topics that are crucial to your success. They say success leaves tracks. So if you're climbing up the mountain, probably what I would want to do is ask the people coming down from the mountain, hey, how was your journey? How did it go? What would you have done better? And that's what we're going to talk about on this podcast is we're going to talk about the topics and situations and how people can do better with their own retirement and learn from the mistakes and trials and tribulations of others. I just happen to be a financial planner in St. Louis, Missouri, with clients in almost 20 different states. And so everybody has a different retirement plan and strategy, but there are some similarities. And for some people, a certain strategy may work. It's kind of like when you go in the kitchen and you come up with your own recipe, and it is a delicious recipe, and you write down the recipe, the ingredients that went into it. Well, guess what? Someone else is going to be able to replicate your success as long as they follow the proven success methods, the recipe that you came up with. But they've got to do it step by step. They can't ad lib, right? That's why they say success leaves tracks. And that's why I've been so fortunate to help dozens of people, dozens of couples retire. And with that experience comes wisdom. And that's what I hope to share on this podcast to all the listeners out there that are wanting a successful financial future in retirement for themselves. So, what else can I offer you? If you do have questions, go to my website, retirementmadeeasypodcast.com. Again, that's retirementmadeeasypodcast.com. At the bottom of the website, there is a section that says Ask Greg a Question. So if there's something about your own portfolio, your own retirement planning that you want a second opinion on, that you want a sounding board, I'd be happy to offer that to you. Many listeners have taken that opportunity to go to the website and get their questions answered and get some feedback on them to give them greater clarity and insights so they have more confidence in whatever direction they're going. In today's topic, the entire podcast, I wanted to talk about a question I received from a listener named Tammy. And Tammy asked about rolling over her old 401k. What are the advantages? What are the disadvantages? What are some things to look out for? What is she missing? And so we're going to talk about that on today's podcast. Certainly, there's many things to consider, but it is a fantastic question. So before we get into today's topic, I wanted to remind listeners, check out our website, retirementmadeeasypodcast.com. It's a great place. You can listen to previous podcast episodes. You can download my Retirement Secret Sauce. It's the best thing on the website, Retirement Secret Sauce, and our tax planning guide, our retirement budgeting app. It's all there underneath resources. So check that out at retirementmadeeasypodcast.com. Now, today's topic, I wanted to answer a question from a listener named Tammy, and she wanted me to discuss the pros and cons, the disadvantages, the advantages of rolling an old 401k into an IRA. She was in the benefits department of her new job, and what she had found is that many of the previous employees and colleagues that she had, what she found out was by looking at all the participants in the 401k is the active participants, meaning people that currently work there and are contributing to the 401k, they were far outnumbered by the former employees or former participants, non-active participants in the 401k plan, meaning someone had worked there for a while, contributed to the 401k, and then just left it there at their old employer. And she was quite shocked that so many people would leave their retirement account at their old employer's 401k and not roll it to a new 401k, roll it over to an IRA, but just leave it there intact with their former employer. And so she got to thinking, saying, why are so many people doing that? Why are so many people leaving their old 401k with their former employer instead of being proactive and either rolling it into an IRA or into their new 401k? I did a little research on this to help answer Tammy's question. This is according to the Employee Benefit Research Institute, a study that was done in 2018. And what it found is it looked at almost 15 million people that had changed jobs in that year. So about 14.8 million people. And then what did they do with their old 401k? The study found that 41% of those people cashed their 401k out and paid the taxes and the penalties that applied. And most people know that if you're under 59 and a half and you cash your 401k out, under most circumstances, you're going to have a 10% early withdrawal penalty. You're going to pay, depending on what state you live in, but federal taxes, federal income taxes, and state income taxes, if it applies to your state. So for most people, I would say, hey, cashing your old 401k out, if 41% of people, according to this study, are doing that, personally, for me, that's painful to hear that 41% of job changers in this study were cashing their 401k out, many of them paying, probably 40% or more in taxes and penalties by doing so. But maybe they were in a financial hardship when they decided to do that. So today I wanted to talk about the reason why you should either consider leaving your old 401k where it is or rolling it into an IRA. And what are the advantages of doing it? What are the disadvantages? So let's first talk about the advantages of leaving your old 401k where it was, right, at your former employer. One advantage is the fees might be lower by leaving it at your former employer, at the old 401k. Typically in 401ks and many 401ks, they're very, very cost effective. So your fees might be lower by leaving it in the old 401k instead of rolling it over to an IRA where other different fees might apply. So if you're fee conscious and if very low fees are important to you, that might be an advantage of leaving it in the old 401k. But for me, the number one reason why I would leave an old 401k where it was is if I was separating service from this old employer after my 55th birthday, or let me be more specific, between age 55 and age 59 and a half. And why do I say that? There is a special rule that if you separate from service, if you retire or change jobs between your 55th birthday and age 59 and a half, you can leave those funds in your 401k, in your old 401k, and you can withdraw them out without that 10% early withdrawal penalty. So let's say somebody retired at age 58. They would be able, this make-believe hypothetical person, would be able to leave his or her 401k in his or her old 401k and have distributions from that old 401k now that he or she is retired at age 58. And the 10% penalty, the 10% early withdrawal penalty would not apply. So that's a beautiful thing. Versus if this hypothetical person would have rolled their old 401k into a self-directed IRA, well, the 10% penalty, early withdrawal penalty would apply. So this is a huge advantage for people that are between the ages of 55 and 59 and a half. You might want to consider leaving that old 401k where it was. Now, once you reach 59 and a half, age 59 and a half, that 10% penalty does not apply to IRAs. So at that point, you would be able to roll it over to an IRA if you so desired. And finally, the last consideration off the top of my head, why someone would want to leave an old 401k where it was after they change jobs, is to get that loan paid off on the 401k. If you happen to have a loan paid off, typically once you separate from service, they give you 60 days to get that loan paid off, and you cannot roll a 401k with a loan into an IRA without paying off the loan first. In other words, that loan doesn't just transfer over to your new rollover IRA. IRAs do not allow you the ability to take a loan on the value of your account balance. That's only a feature that 401ks have. So those are the three advantages of leaving an old 401k where it is at your former employer. And with that being said, it's going to depend on your situation, but I would say in more times than not, it would probably be advantageous to roll over your 401k into an IRA instead of leaving it at your former employer. So let's talk about some of the reasons why it might make sense to roll over that old 401k into a self-directed IRA. And the number one reason on my list is it gives you more control. You heard me say it's a self-directed IRA, and with rollover IRAs, you can invest it however you want. So the investment choice selection is almost infinite versus in most 401ks, they have a menu or an investment list that you must choose from. It's kind of like going to a restaurant and they have a small menu, a very, very small menu. They have 6 entrees to choose from. That's it. Versus going to a restaurant and they have a chef there where everything's a la carte. They can make you anything that you'd like. So having that control aspect of how your money is invested to align with your goals is very, very important to most people. And having the investment selection open up so wide when it comes to investing inside of a rollover IRA, that's a huge, huge advantage for most people. The next thing on my list was having the ability to work with a financial advisor or a firm that has better communication and service. Inside of your 401k, if you ever have questions, you have to dial an 800 number, and they ask you to press 1 for English, 2 for Spanish, and then you get somebody on the phone that doesn't know anything about you and your financial goals, your retirement dreams. And there's just not that personal touch. You don't get to speak with someone who actually cares about you and your success. So with a rollover IRA, you have the ability to work with your own financial advisor on a one-on-one level. Now, you don't have to do that. You can have a self-directed IRA with a popular custodian at a very low cost. You don't necessarily have to work with a financial advisor. You get to choose. You get to make that decision on yourself. The next advantage that I have on my list is the ability for people to consolidate their accounts. So I see this over and over again. People have an IRA here, an old 401k there, another old 401k there, and just all these different statements without any intentional or collaborative effort when it comes to monitoring the accounts and making sure they're invested properly. And when you have 18 different accounts scattered in all these different places, it's just hard to account for everything. So by rolling your old 401k into a rollover IRA, you're able to, again, consolidate different accounts. And I typically see people, it is not uncommon to see people that have multiple IRAs at different places or multiple old 401ks. And it's of my opinion that if you can consolidate those accounts, I think you'll have greater confidence because it's all in one spot. It's not scattered everywhere. And you, or if you're working with an advisor, you and your advisor jointly can keep track of that one account a lot better than all these other accounts that are scattered everywhere. The next item on my list is the ability to bring the Roth into the picture. So let me explain. With 401ks, not every 401k has the Roth component. There are many, many 401ks that I see that only have the pre-tax traditional 401k available to the participants. However, with rollover IRAs, you have the ability to incorporate a Roth IRA. So you would be able to do Roth conversions little by little, or later on in life, certainly. So having that Roth component available to you is just like another arrow in the quiver, so to speak. And having that ability to do Roth conversions, maybe not now, but maybe in the future can be very, very valuable to you. So that's one big advantage of the rollover IRA. And the last thing on my list is when it comes to beneficiary planning. With many 401ks, and every 401k is different, of course, but with many 401ks out there, they only allow you to list a single primary beneficiary. For most people that are married, they list their spouse. So with some 401ks, they don't allow you to list contingent beneficiaries. The 401k wants to, should something happen to you, transfer the money over to your primary beneficiary, and they want to be done with it. With a rollover IRA, however, you have the ability to list not only primary, but also contingent beneficiaries as well, kind of as backups. So many people want to list their spouse and then maybe their adult children as their contingent beneficiaries. Some people will list a trust or friends, family, other loved ones as their contingent beneficiaries. You can do it however you'd like. So all things being equal, in my opinion, rollover IRAs have more beneficiary planning flexibility when it comes to naming your beneficiaries. And lastly, I'll want to point out that having choices is the most important thing that I can think of. It's kind of like if I went into a bagel shop. If they had 29 different varieties of bagels, I could certainly find something that I like. But if they had 3 choices to select from, I might have to settle for something that was just mediocre and not really what I was looking for. And I've brought this up on previous podcasts, but your portfolio should be aligned with your goals and what you want your portfolio to be able to accomplish. So if your goal in retirement is to provide X amount of dollars a month of income to supplement your Social Security and maybe a pension that you have, then the question should be, how is my 401k invested to provide that income that I'm looking for every month? And if you can't answer that question, then you may have to look elsewhere. It's kind of like my landscaper said to me. He said, I can tell you've done an okay job with your landscaping up until this point. It looks okay, but we can do much, much better. So while your old 401k, it may be okay, it may be even pretty good, but can you do better with it? And can you come up with a portfolio or solution that's more tailored to your unique goals and desired outcome? And in my opinion, it's much easier to find that and to put that together inside of a self-directed rollover IRA. I hope today's discussion has been helpful. If you have questions I can help with, go to the website retirementmadeeasypodcast.com. That's retirementmadeeasypodcast.com. I'd love to hear listener questions, comments, hate mail. You can submit that right there on the website and check out the free resources as well. Until next time, I'm Greg Gonzalez, and remember, always dream big. The opinions voiced in this material are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, please consult your attorney, tax advisor, or financial advisor prior to investing. This is a hypothetical example and is not representative of any specific investment. Your results may vary. All performance referenced is historical and is no guarantee of future results. All indices mentioned are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. The SmartVestor program is a directory of investment professionals. Neither Dave Ramsey nor SmartVestor are affiliates of St. Louis Retirement Advisors or LPL Financial. There is no guarantee that a diversified portfolio will enhance overall returns or outperform a non-diversified portfolio. Diversification does not protect against market risk. All investing involves risk, including loss of principal. No strategy assures success or protects against loss. Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA, SIPC.